This is the time of the greatest tension at Indianapolis. Just a couple of minutes before the start, as the balloons are released into the Indiana sky. Everyone knows now it's not far off. We're standing somewhere down in that crowd you're looking at on the track. Actually, we're with the cars on the first row. Joe Leonard on the pole right here, and his Turbine teammate, Graham Hill, rounding out the first row. Bobby Unser.
Can I ask you one quick question, Bob?
Sure. Sure.
I was just talking to Mario Andretti, and I asked him, what about the first turn? And his line was, they better be fast because I'm right in back of them. How do you envisage that first turn?
Oh, I don't know. I'm not too concerned about it. I'll just let things work themselves out when we get there. Really, I don't plan that far ahead in the racing. I don't know how the turbines are going to accelerate. And I tell you the truth, I don't know how ours is going to accelerate. We haven't tried a start yet on account of all the rain we've had here, so we really don't know. We don't know if our gearing is right for it or anything like that. So it'll just be something I'll have to figure out when I get...
At the Indianapolis Speedway, 300,000 people are tensed in their places, ready to hear owner Tony Holman utter the most famous single sentence in American sport.
Gentlemen, start your engine.
Listen to this.
Jim, this is certainly the most exciting moment of all when those engines roar into action.
Mechanics raising their hands, indicating that their car is started and ready to go.
This is the way they indicate to the officials that they are ready, and they look down the line, and when they're all ready, the pace car moves away.
Hear the whine of the turbines and the roar of the piston engine cars, and now the first row is away. Behind them in the second row will be number 2, Mario Andretti, who was on the pole last year, 25, Lloyd Ruby, and 24, Al Unser. In the third row, 8, Roger McCluskey, and look out.
Jim, there's Mario Andretti, and he hasn't got his car started yet.
Well, we'll see what happens with that story. In the third row, I said 8, Roger McCluskey, 1, the defending champion, A.J. Foyt, 4, Gordon Johncock. In the fourth row, Dan Gurney, 48, Art Pollard, number 20, that's the other turbine, and 54, Wally Dallenbach.
Jim, Mario's away now, so it looks like everything's going to be all right.
Okay, they'll get a start then. In the fifth row, 82 is Jimmy McElreath, 27, Jim Malloy, a rookie, 78, Jerry Grant. Then we have 35, Jochen Rindt, 15, Mel Kenyon, 10, Bud Tingelstad. In row 7, 45, Ronnie Bucknam, 42, Dennis Hulme, and 18, Johnny Rutherford. 2 young drivers, the sons of great Indianapolis drivers, are side by side on the next row, 11, Gary Bettenhausen, and 98, Billy Vukovic, along with 16, Bob Veith.
And as you can see, Mario Andretti has his nose right up behind that turbine.
He wasn't kidding when he told me that before the start of the race then. Row 9 is Bobby Grimm in car number 6, 59, Ronnie Duman, 90, Mike Mosley. 84, Carl Williams, 29, George Snyder, 56, the only roadster in the race, Jim Hurtubise. In the final row, 94, Sam Sessions, 21, Arnie Knepper, 64, Larry Dixon.
As they ground the fourth turn heading towards the straightaway, it looks as though the field is all set.
And we're going to get a start. Pace car off. Here they come.
And look at Lloyd Ruby bust through from his second row position, but Joe Leonard has busted out into the lead.
The start is just as everybody has expected. The turbine car has taken the lead immediately. It's Joe Leonard out in front. Bobby Unser is in second place. The other 2 turbines will try to spot. Graham Hill is back in 6th, and Pollard is trailing in the field. However, there could be other reasons for that aside from lack of speed.
Driver, perhaps he wants to see what happens for a while.
And of course, Pollard hasn't had very many laps in this car. He's kind of practicing, maybe.
Yes, I would feel he would take it easy for a few laps to get the feel of the automobile.
There's a good look at the leader on this first lap, Joe Leonard. The rest of the field trailing out behind him. Mario Andretti in car number 2.
He's slowing down a little bit, Jim. Looks as though he may have some trouble.
Mario into the pits, almost like it was last year. The fellow who won the pole here 2 years in a row has had no luck since.
He had to go right on by his pits, apparently going too fast to get stopped.
However, he is in obvious trouble. You have any idea what that smoke might be?
Well, it's difficult to say. Looks as though he might have burned a piston, Jim.
Okay, well, back up in front. Joe Leonard is the story of San Jose, California. Former motorcycle driver driving this fabulous wet-shaped turbine machine today.
And he has a rather substantial lead right at the moment.
Bobby Unser is second. Roger McCluskey is third. Gordon Johncock is fourth in his Gilmore Broadcasting Special. And by the way, he's got a Wide World of Sports decal on there today. In fifth position is Lloyd Ruby, and in sixth position, Graham Hill.
Field strings out behind them. Everybody looks like they're in good shape. Another car smoking.
That's Jochen Rindt this time. And here is Mario into the pits, this time stopping.
Looks as though he's getting out, Jim. The problem must be rather serious.
Jochen Rindt's smoking worse than ever. He's going to have to come in, it looks like.
Yes, I would say his problems are rather serious, too. 2 cars out of the race with just a couple of laps gone.
Bobby Unser, however, hanging in there pretty good as Rindt signaled to the other cars to go on past him and smokes more and more. Bobby Unser hanging pretty close to Joe Leonard. Let's have a word with Mario.
Tough luck again this year, Mario.
Nothing new, I guess.
You're going to go back out again.
I'm going to call Dixon in pretty soon.
He'll take his place. I see. Mario Andretti, who just won't give up. And here is Jochen Rindt in his Brabham car coming into the pits. We're back again at the Indianapolis 500. This is Jim McKay reporting along with two-time Indianapolis winner Roger Ward, and the battle goes on for the lead. Joe Leonard in that wedge-shaped turbine car leading Bobby Unser, but not by very much. In third place is Roger McCluskey in car number 8, then car number 4, Gordon Johncock, number 25, Lloyd Ruby, and in sixth position, 70, Graham Hill, followed by 20, Art Pollard. The other two turbines running right together in sixth and seventh place.
Actually, Art is a little ways back, but he has made a good move. And, of course, it looks as though Bobby Unser is beginning to move in a little bit on Joe Leonard.
That's right. The race is not going exactly as it was supposed to. The turbines were not only supposed to lead, but to pull away. And here comes Unser making a move. He's got it.
He is. That straightaway speed of that turbocharged Dolphy has given him the lead now.
So this is the first big surprise in the 1968 Indianapolis 500. Bobby Unser in this turbocharged Offenhauser car taking the lead from the much vaunted turbine of Joe Leonard.
Everyone's surprised by that move, and especially me.
Well, you said that they'd finish 1, 2, 3 if they didn't have trouble. Could be that Joe is having some sort of problem out there. More especially, it could be that Graham Hill and Art Pollard are having problems back in the pack.
Well, of course, Joe doesn't look as though he's having trouble. Perhaps he didn't realize how close Bobby was, because he has moved back in on him and is attempting to pass.
It is evident already, however, that Bobby's getting his speed on the straightaway, and as predicted, Leonard's getting it in the turns, right?
Yes, it certainly appears that way. However, we can time the cars through turn 4. We have a section of pavement there. You can see the dark pavement as compared to the light, and perhaps in a minute or two we'll time the 2 cars through turn 4. We use turn 4 because it's one of the faster turns, one of the turns they accelerate onto the long straightaways.
Here now comes the clock as Bobby Unser comes through, starts on the black pavement, and when the black pavement finishes, watch his time. This is the 4th turn, remember. And there you have it, 9.45. Remember that figure, because in a moment we're going to be showing you one on the other car, on the turbine car. On the turbine car, however, we selected a lap, the second lap in the race, when the turbine was leading. Here it is, starting onto the black pavement in stop action. Now the clock will start. Again, it'll stop at the precise same point at the end of the blacktop. And as you see, on the second lap, he was 9.28, which is some 17/100ths of a second faster than we clocked Bobby Unser in the turn.
So that's the way we predicted it, that the four-wheel drive automobile would go through the turns faster. However, they don't seem to have quite as much advantage as everyone might have thought.
Into the pits now comes Larry Dixon. He is going to change, remember, with Mario Andretti. Andretti's car broke down but this is the other car on Andretti's team. Mario getting in, will try again. And further down the pits, Roger McCluskey has also come in and is out of his car. Looks like McCluskey's out of the race. He was in third position. That moves up Gordon Johncock in car number 4 into third place, Lloyd Ruby into fourth position.
Well, of course, this is very important for Mario Andretti because he's in a battle for that championship, and he could get some very important points here. But a real tough break for Roger McCluskey.
Looks like there's going to be a lot of tough breaks today. Here is Jimmy Hurtubise, whose Roadster is in and out of it also. Great battle going on between A.J. Foyt and Dan Gurney. Look at them fighting for 6th and 7th position right now. That is Dan Gurney in the dark or blue car if you're watching in color. And look at Foyt up on the high side.
You can see how determined Foyt is because even though he's almost out of the groove, he just won't back off. Well, you see two really great race drivers there giving it all they've got.
Has now moved up into fourth position, followed by Dan Gurney and A.J. Foyt. And into the pits again comes Mario Andretti.
And, of course, a real tough break for him, the second of the Overseas National Airways out for today.
Okay, his team completely out of the race then at the moment, and there you see the lead cars on this long lens. Gordon Johncock has also dropped out of the race. That's why you did not hear his name up among the leaders. Tremendous attrition rate here so far this afternoon. Again, is that the lack of practice time, the lack of cooperation time?
Well, I believe that that is part of it. And, of course, these drivers have to drive this track very precisely. As you can see how close they...
That's Al Unser up on the wall.
You can see him starting to get out, even though the car is not yet stopped. Of course, it's a very dangerous time because a fire could break out there at any moment if one of his fuel tanks had broken.
So while the one brother here is leading the race, the other one is making the long walk back to the pits, but pretty lucky to be able to be making it. That could have been a lot worse.
Well, that certainly could have been. That could have been a very serious accident. He hit that wall almost head on.
Well, now while the yellow flag is out, the cars, of course, will hold their places while the debris is cleared from the track. So we're going to use that time to go back now to just the other day when our cameras were mounted on the race car being driven by rookie Jim Malloy while he drove this track.
As he leaves the pit area into turn 1, he must stay down on the apron, out of the way of the faster-moving automobiles. He picks his speed up across a short straightaway and moves out into the groove as he enters turn 2. Down this back straightaway, he'll attain a speed of almost 215 miles an hour. He moves up, attempts to pass an automobile. However, he doesn't get quite all the way in, so he must back off going through turn 3, across the short straightaway, and then, of course, into turn 4. As he leaves turn 4, you'll see him make another attempt to pass an automobile. That's one of Jack Brabham's cars. He moves down to the inside of the racetrack.
In short, Roger, there's frighteningly little margin for error on this race course.
Well, there certainly is no margin for error. Actually, even a tiny slip can spell disaster here. The important thing, Jim, is that for the first time in history, the groove actually is being changed by the turbines.
We'll be back at Indy in a minute. The green flag is out again at Indianapolis in a tremendous race where Lloyd Ruby in car number 25 is now the leader. But look at this battle still going on between Dan Gurney in the dark car and A.J. Foyt in the orange car for 5th position. They've been dicing here for I don't know how many laps now, Roger.
Well, they certainly have, and as a matter of fact, I don't remember a race when we've had so many battles for so many positions. The lead has changed many times, and of course, it's really one of the most exciting races I've ever seen.
Here comes another development. There's A.J. slowing down. That battle has just that suddenly ended for 5th place. Foyt slowing down and moving down toward the infield.
Well, it's a tough break for A.J. I know he was looking forward to this race. He wanted to be a 4-time winner.
And now action back up in front again. Look at Unser passing Ruby and retaking the lead again. So here are the leaders now. Bobby Unser in first place, Lloyd Ruby second, and then the two turbines, Joe Leonard third, and Graham Hill moving well up into 4th place now. Foyt's car into Gasoline Alley.
That he is out of the race.
And here's A.J. Foyt, foiled in his attempt to make it 4 Indianapolis victory. What was the problem with your car, AJ?
Well, actually, Chris, we was running some new style connecting rods, and I just broke a rod, that's all.
That was Chris Economaki down in another part of the pit area, interviewing A.J. Foyt, who, of course, is out of the race. There's the leader, Bobby Unser. Lloyd Ruby in second place, and that car number 25. Car number 60 is Joe Leonard. In third position, as we said, Graham Hill is fourth. A quick reminder here that on Friday, June 28th, ABC kicks off its 1968 football season with the Coaches All-America game in the Atlanta Municipal Stadium. That's Friday, June 28th at 8:30, 7:30 Central, live and in color on ABC. And now let's listen to Graham Hill's comments before the race on what it's like to drive a turbine.
The main difference, you notice, is the lack of throttle response. The gas turbine takes a while to gather up, and while it's doing so, of course, you haven't got that instant power that you require in the turn, especially. The response is also lacking when you lift your foot off. It takes a while to get up to speed, and it takes a while to back down. You've got to anticipate your needs at all the time.
Graham Hill telling what it's like in the cockpit of that fantastic turbine race car. Right now, however, the leader is Bobby Unser in a more conventional turbocharged Offenhauser, and there is Joe Leonard going after Ruby.
And now you can see the versatility of that turbine. He's able to run way below the groove and able to pass Lloyd Ruby as they went through turn 4.
Okay, so now it's Bobby Unser in first place in car number 3, but Joe Leonard in car number 60 has moved back into second position. So the battle resumes between these two cars that really have been fighting for the lead most of the day. And look how close they are now. Leonard closing in.
It might be that the track is getting a little bit oily out there, and this may be working to the advantage of Joe Leonard. However, on the straightaway, as you can see, Bobby Unser is able to pull away just a little ways from the turbine.
Well, there's been some comment here in the pits that maybe the turbines were holding back a little bit. Here comes Dan Gurney into the pits. This is his second scheduled pit stop. Dan Gurney and his Eagle doing very, very well, moving up in the standings in 5th position in the race.
And, of course, while he's there, Denny Holm, his teammate, comes in for his second scheduled pit stop.
Gurney, one of the most popular drivers anywhere in the world, and he races in every kind of motor racing.
Certainly is doing a great job. But here is Graham Hill in the pits for his second scheduled pit stop.
There are 3 required pit stops. You have to make 3, whether you need them or not, in the Indianapolis 500 this year. There's Unser going by with Leonard, still battling for the lead. Colin Chapman had a few words. As you can see, the race is now 1 lap more than half over as Graham Hill goes back into the thick of it.
And a record speed of 158 miles an hour to this point.
We're back in Indianapolis, where almost 300,000 people are watching one of the most exciting Indianapolis 500s of all time. This has been a battle right from the start. The 3 principal cars, Bobby Unser, Joe Leonard, and Lloyd Ruby. Now, there was Leonard going by in car number 60. He, at the moment, is in second place. There's Ruby in car number 25, third. And here is Graham Hill in the other turbine, who is in 4th position at the moment. Dan Gurney in car number 48 is in 5th place. So it's Unser, Leonard, Ruby, Hill, and Gurney. A big battle on the lead, however, among the 3 cars, as we said. Unser in car number 3, Leonard in car number 60, and Ruby in car number 25. They've been switching back and forth on the lead when one would get a faster pit stop than the other.
And here comes Joe Leonard for his second pit stop. And, of course, the pressure is really on these pit men now because a fast pit stop could be very important.
Let's see what this sign is. First 3 cars have 1 full lap on the field, and it might rain. Now, what's the significance of that?
Well, I think he's telling Joe to get the lead if he can.
Okay, now Bobby Unser has gotten the sign to come in on his next lap.
Andy Granatelli waves Joe back to the track, and, of course, Joe leaves as quickly as possible. And we expect to see Bobby Unser in the pits very soon now.
Pit stops have been really fast, anywhere from... It's Graham Hill out of control. Up against the wall, a wheel bouncing down the track. And no fire.
He's getting out. Looks as though he might be all right.
He's walking in that same familiar, sedate Graham Hill fashion. And look at this. He even cleans up the track and takes off the wheel that might have caused trouble to another driver. But Graham Hill is out of the race. The yellow flag is out again at Indianapolis.
And here comes Bobby Unser. A real break for him because under the yellow flag, he'll be able to make a a quick pit stop and gained quite a bit of time.
Everybody except you said nobody could stay with the turbine cars.
We don't,
what you expected to happen?
We don't have any horsepower. Every car here can beat us at the end of the straightaway. We just don't have any horsepower. In the race, we cannot run in competition because we have to slow down for traffic.
Is the heat slowing up?
The heat and no horsepower. We only got 480 horsepower. It's all that we have, and the rest of them got between 600 and 700.
You're going to win?
We're going to try.
And now Bobby Unser going back out onto the race course. Gee, what a battle this race is. And Granatelli telling him to slow down.
I don't know, all I can say is that a car without a horsepower, that Joe Leonard is certainly doing very well.
And Granatelli waving Leonard by. Look how slowly Unser's coming out now.
He's in trouble of some kind, Jim, and of course Joe Leonard just went by him for the lead. I can't determine what his problem might be, but this could be very serious.
So once again, as it has so many times in this race, the lead has changed hands. Joe Leonard is the leader again. Unser is still second, however, and Lloyd Ruby is third.
He seemed to be picking up the speed, so apparently his problem was only temporary.
Here's Graham Hill back in the pits, and he gave us the word as he came through Gasoline Alley that his right front wheel seemed to be out of balance right from the start of the race. The car also seemed to be down on power all along. Then he said something broke, he hit the brakes hard, spun, and he said he was very lucky to hit the wall at the angle he did. There's Mario Andretti. Lots of fine drivers out of this race already.
Mario with a very dejected look on his face there. You can tell his disappointment.
Out on the track, the yellow flag is still out, remember? And with Graham Hill out of the race, it is now assured that the winner this year will be a brand new winner. No past champion is left in the competition. Here's the green flag. And look at Unser burst out. He's past Joe Leonard. Unser is back in the lead.
Well, it appears as though he edged up a little bit on the yellow flag, and when they came down and got the green, he out-accelerated Joe and took the lead. What an exciting race this has been.
It certainly is. The turbocharged Offenhouse, again, out in front of this turbine car. Bobby Unser the leader. Joe Leonard second again.
There's Art Pollard slowing down as they go into turn two. He apparently has some kind of a problem again.
There's the leader and the second car. Still just a matter of feet separating them at these tremendous speeds. How fast on the straightaways, Roger?
Well, the turbocharged Offies run somewhere in the neighborhood of 205, 210 miles an hour. Of course, Lloyd Ruby is really not too far back.
Oh, it's a spin. That's young Billy Vukovic. But he didn't hit the wall. He looks okay. And he was in trouble there for a minute, but has avoided the other cars, and they're avoiding him if he gets back up and goes the other way. Billy Vukovic's car sitting on the racetrack, and of course the yellow flag has come out again.
Another spin down there.
There's Johnny Rutherford, and I think he was hit by Jimmy McElreath's car, number 82.
Yes, he was. Apparently they approached the scene of this accident too quickly, and looked as though McElreath couldn't get slowed down and ran into the back of Rutherford, and of course there is damage to McElreath's car. Now getting Billy Vukovic started again, and he did get the car started and is underway again, which will be a break for him.
He'll be coming into the pits, of course, but it looks like his car may be all right. Might be able to continue the
race. Another spin!
Boy, I'm telling you.
That's Mike Mosley who came in there a little fast. There must be some oil in the race.
Billy Vukovic in the pits. I'm standing now with the owner of his car, J.C. Agajanian.
Oh, I'm sure proud of him, Jim. He's doing a great job out there. He's followed my instructions right to the T. I didn't want him to try to win this race because he needs the experience. And actually, I told him that this is a school today. You're going out to learn how to drive the Indianapolis 500. And he's paid 100% attention to my instructions. I'm real proud of him.
So young Billy Vukovic has had his first spin at Indy, but he's back in the race and doing just fine. So goes one of the most exciting of all Indianapolis 500s. The finish here today should really be something. The issue is still very much in doubt. In the 1968 Indianapolis 500, the leader is Bobby Unser in car number 3. Then comes Joe Leonard in the turbine, number 60. Then Lloyd Ruby in car number 25, followed by Dan Gurney, his teammate Dennis Holm, and Art Pollard in the other turbine is doing quite well right now, although he's a number of laps behind in 6th place. He is followed by Mel Kenyon in car number 15. That's the way they stand at this moment. And Bobby Unser is very close on the tail of Joe Leonard, trying to lap him.
Yes, actually, he's running quite light because he has not yet made his 3rd pit stop, so he's able to go quite a bit faster. But there goes Lloyd Ruby passing Joe Leonard going down the back straightaway.
Okay, so Ruby has now moved into second place, and there he is in car number 25. But both of them are almost a lap behind the leader Bobby Unser. Remember, they have made their third and final pit stop, what they hope will be their final pit stop, and he has not as yet. There's the sign to Bobby right now, pit in 1 lap. So Unser will be coming in very shortly, Roger.
But he is right on the tail of Joe Leonard, and I think he hopes to lap Joe before he comes into the pits. And, of course, this would be something of a moral victory for him.
Cars seesawing back and forth. Gee, what a race this has been all day long.
And there he goes down the back straightaway. He has passed Joe Leonard, so that means that he has a full lap on the third-place car, Joe Leonard.
Okay, so the leader, remember, is Bobby Unser. In second place, Lloyd Ruby, and in third place, Joe Leonard.
His hand just went up, which indicates that he would be making his pit stop now.
A familiar sight overhead, the Goodyear blimp. Here's the leader into the pits. Let's put a clock on it this time and see exactly how long this pit stop takes, because this one is all important. If he can get out of the pits before the other 2 cars come around, he'll still be the leader. Otherwise not. It's as simple as that, isn't it, Rod?
It certainly is, and of course this is an extremely important pit stop. We have to remember that he has had problems with his automobile leaving the pits, and that also could be very important.
The clock's still running. There have been pit stops as fast as 16 or 17 seconds, but this looks like one of the longer ones right now.
Well, they're still quite busy, and of course there's 21 seconds, 22, 23.
Ruby and Leonard you saw coming out of the third turn and into the fourth.
A 27-second pit stop, Jim, that is quite a long pit stop, and he's not accelerating as he should, so apparently he still has that problem.
Word we get from the pits is that the problem is in the transmission. He's having trouble getting up to speed.
And here comes Lloyd Ruby down the straightaway.
Ruby's got him. Joe Leonard coming very quickly, I think, is also going to get him also before he gets up to speed. There goes Joe. And this problem with the transmission, where he has to accelerate so slowly, has just cost Bobby Unser the lead in the race. Almost certainly, even with the long pit stop, he would have gotten out and still been in first place, don't you think?
Yes, I'm certain that he would have. At least it would have been very close.
Meanwhile, life goes on in the infield, and a quick reminder here that Craig and Lee Breedlove are undoubtedly the fastest couple in the world of speed sports. On Saturday, June 22nd, ABC will present The Racers, the story of this fast-paced twosome who have brought speed records to their knees on the Bonneville Salt Flats. That's The Racers, 4 o'clock, 3 Central on ABC, your network for sports. The surprises continue. Lloyd Ruby very briefly just stopped in the pits and then went back out again. What do you think it is, Roger?
Actually, I believe they developed some sort of trouble, and they've sent someone back to the garage area for parts. So likely he'll be back in the pits very soon.
That's Dennis Holm you're looking at right now on his third and final scheduled pit stop of the day. Ruby then back out on the race course has already lost valuable ground to his adversaries, Bobby Unser and Joe Leonard, and apparently is going to lose more because he'll have to come back in the pits.
Of course, that puts Joe Leonard in the lead, and of course he has about an 8 or 9 second lead at this moment, so it's certainly going to be a very close finish.
Well, actually, according to our calculations, Unser is gaining about a half a second a lap, so with about 20 laps left, he could still make it. Gee, this is going to be a tremendous finish in this classic duel that they'll be reading about in motor racing circles 50 years from now. The turbine against the piston, and apparently going right down to the wire.
And, of course, the real Cinderella story is Dan Gurney. He's been doing a tremendous job all day long and now is in third spot. So he's going to pick up a little change, too.
Okay, and, of course, the chassis in Bobby Unser's car is also an Eagle, which is Dan Gurney's company. There's Mel Kenyon, number 15, by the way, who has been moving up very well in the field.
There's Lloyd Ruby back in the pits, and here comes his mechanic with that missing part. They're going to try to get that car back in the race.
However, as far as winning is...
There's an accident on the back straightaway, Jim.
That's Carl Williams' car. We saw the wheel fly off and go down into the infield, but he brought it under control. The car on fire, as you see, and Carl out of it.
Looks as though he bumped the outside retaining wall as he came out of the turn, knocked the wheel off, and slid halfway down that back straightaway.
Carl seeming kind of stunned as he just stood there in the middle of the track, and of course the yellow flag has come out again. Now this could change the whole situation. We said that Unser was gaining a half a second a lap, could possibly catch up and win the race, but now with only 19 laps left, it could be that he just won't have time.
That's right. It depends on how long this yellow flag is, and of course with that car burning the way it is, it could be quite a while. Lloyd seems somewhat relaxed there in the pits. Certainly very disappointed, Lloyd Ruby, because he did have a good chance to win.
Well, he always drives here at Indianapolis very, very well, but never has been able to win so far. Now, the crowd on its feet, booing, and I think there's Judd Phillips, the chief mechanic for Bobby Unser, out complaining to the officials.
Well, I believe Art Pollard, unknowingly, is actually slowed down more than the lead and is causing Bobby Unser to lose additional time. And, of course, this would keep him from winning.
So the crowd feels that the leader's teammate is blocking out the second-place car, and that could cost him the race. We'll be back in just a minute at Indianapolis. The yellow flag is still out at Indianapolis. The leader, Leonard, second place, Unser, then Gurney, Holm, Kenyon, and Pollard. And the big question now is, when the green comes out, will there be time enough left for Unser to make up the difference? Looks like it'll be about 6 or 7 seconds.
Yes, it looks as though it'll be at least that much. And, of course, whether or not he can make that up in the 7 or 8 or 10 laps that'll be left is very difficult to know at this time.
There's the green flag. It's out. The race is underway again. There goes the turbine.
And Joe Leonard is slowing down for some reason.
The turbine is stopping. This is absolutely unbelievable. A year ago, we saw almost exactly the same thing when Parnelli Jones, driving the very first turbine to appear in this race, stopped with, well, less laps than this to go. But it's the same thing all over again. Leonard has just stopped. Do you have any idea what could have happened, Roger?
I have absolutely no idea whatsoever. If he didn't run out of fuel, I just can't possibly imagine what could have happened. Perhaps another transmission failure.
And the crowd loves what's happened. They're all for the old-fashioned piston engines against the newfangled turbine. Chris Economaki is down in the Granatelli pits with Parnelli Jones.
Parnelli, what do they think it is?
Well, they don't really know for sure, and of course the fellas haven't come back. They went down after the car and after Joe Leonard.
Could it be fuel?
Well, there's some question there, but I really don't think so. They fueled the car. I seen the fuel overflow out the top when they pitted the last time myself.
You're the one guy that knows how he feels, aren't you?
Well, I certainly do.
And here's an ironic sight, a crushed Joe Leonard walking past Victory Lane, where he would have been in a very few minutes had the car not broken down. A quick glance to what might have been. Back to Chris again.
Andy, 2 years running, what do you think is wrong out there with the car? Could it be fuel?
No. I'll be right back.
Andy Granatelli, understandably disappointed.
And he didn't have too much to say, and as Chris said, that's understandable. There's the car being pushed into the infield. Just absolutely at a dead stop. Leonard saying something to Andy. Heading back towards the pits. Chris Economaki still standing by.
Joe, what a tough break for you. Joe Leonard here, being commiserated with. Joe, do you know what happened to the car?
No, I don't know. Just like as if somebody turned the key off, Chris.
Tough break, Joe. Tough break.
Roger, can you believe this? Look at this. The other turbine has stopped. Art Pollard.
Well, this is the most unbelievable thing I ever have seen. Actually, we thought that these turbines were invincible. We believed that none of them would experience any problems of any kind, and now they're all out.
Graham Hill went out in a crash, but the other two have just plain stopped in the closing laps of this automobile race. The 1968 Indianapolis 500, one that will be remembered for a long, long time.
This is certainly one of the most unbelievable things I have ever seen.
Remember, Unser is the leader now, all by himself. He's way, way ahead of Dan Gurney, who has now moved into second place. There is Dennis Holm into the pits for an unscheduled pit stop.
It's a tough break for Denny. He was doing a great job. He had a third spot all wrapped up, and a blown engine. That's car number 82.
Jimmy McElreath, right.
Yes.
McElreath, who was in an accident earlier, has now blown his engine and is out of it. It's just one thing after another. And Bobby Unser, I'm sure, wishes it was all over before something happens to his car.
I'm sure he does. However, he's sitting in a good spot. He's looking at second spot. Dan Gurney is about 100 yards in front of him. And, of course, Bobby is able to keep his eye on him. That way he knows all the time where second place is.
White flag is out for the leader. Bobby Unser has 1 lap to go. Mel Kenyon, by the way, has moved into third place. There is Bobby's mother in the white raincoat, rooting him home. She's had 3 sons who are race drivers. One was killed here in Indianapolis some 10 years ago. The other was in the race today and crashed. But Bobby, it looks like, is going to be a winner.
It certainly appears that way. Of course, the Unser family are racing people. They've had many uncles. They got their fame out of Pikes Peak, but he certainly looks great here today.
Bobby Unser cruising home to victory at Indianapolis before this huge crowd in his Resumen special.
Here is the white flag for Dan Gurney.
The checkered flag is ready.
Checkered flag. A popular victory.
And that's it. It's all over. Bobby Unser has won at Indy. Dan Gurney will finish second. A most popular victory here for the young man who has now won 4 races in a row on the USAC Trail.
You see Mr. Wilkie, the car owner there, certainly understandably very happy. The crew is elated over this victory.
Judd Phillips, the chief mechanic, being congratulated there.
Bobby waving to the crowd as he probably doesn't quite believe it yet himself.
Well, he sure made sure by taking an extra lap there just in case. I think you did that yourself one time, didn't you?
Yes, as a matter of fact, I did. I know exactly how he feels. It's a little hard to believe this right now.
That was Gurney getting the checkered flag for second place. Mel Kenyon is going to finish third. There he goes. Just listen to this for a minute. Unser moving into victory lane. The spot that every American race driver dreams about, must literally dream about sometimes, Roger, until he finally makes it.
Well, they certainly do dream about it, and of course, many European drivers would also like to find that little spot.
No question of that. There's Mrs. Unser again, and here is Bobby. The horseshoe of flowers waiting for him, and the glass of milk, and the beauty queen, of course. His mother again, a great moment for the entire Unser family. Brother Al was joining in that celebration in the pits, even though his car crashed today. Bobby and his wife. And now kissing his little daughter. We're going to try to have a word with this winner in just a minute. Bobby, congratulations on one of the most exciting victories in the history of Indianapolis.
Well, thank you very much, Jim. It needs to say I'm so happy I just can't believe it. I didn't ever think something this nice could ever happen to me, but it has, and I just can't tell people how happy I am.
What was the story of this race through the eyes of the winning driver?
Well, I knew I was running pretty good in the race, but after the first pit stop, the gear shift linkage came unhooked, and I only had high gear after that. So I had to leave the pits in high gear, and I was afraid I was either going to burn the clutch out or lose an awful lot of time, which I did lose an awful lot of time. But it just caused me to drive a little bit harder, is about all it amounted to.
When that green flag came on and you suddenly saw Joey Leonard slow down instead of speed up, could you believe it?
No, I couldn't believe it. I really couldn't, because Joe did a fantastic job today. He drove the car very good all day long, and, well, needless to say, he was a heck of a competitor for me.
Well, there was Bobby Unser, a happy winner in Indianapolis. That's the thrill of victory. As for the agony of defeat...
What happened?
I don't know.
Really?
I really don't know. I have no way of knowing, and I don't think it's really important. I mean, apparently, whoever runs the show upstairs doesn't want me to win, so...
The cars did well in the race. However, they lost about 8 miles an hour since qualifying. Can you explain that?
No, they didn't lose 8 miles an hour. We actually turned laps in the race at 68 when there was no cars in front of us. The cars don't have enough horsepower, and they just can't run with it when the other cars are in front of them in the corner, and they don't have the torque or the power to get through the corners. Then they'll run just as fast as the other cars in the corners, but they don't have enough power down the straightaway. So if we can't come off the corner 10 miles an hour faster than the other guy, we lose the speed down the straightaway. It's just very simple. We only got about 430 horsepower today.
You think that this is a fair balance between your type of car and the piston engine cars?
Well, you see it for yourself. The Offenhauser's got 625 to 50 out there today. There wasn't the worst Offenhauser out there. They couldn't blow us off from the starting line down to the straightaway. We never passed one car on a straightaway, ever.
What about your future plans, Andy, with the turbine? Will you stay with this?
Well, maybe they won't ban them right now, and if they don't ban turbines because of this, the whole thing would have been worthwhile, because at least the future will be where it belongs on turbines.
Well, there's going to be some evolutionary development on turbines, I'm sure. Next year they should be considerably better, don't you think?
If they don't change the rules, we'll be back.
Andy, what about your luck in this business? Over the years, it's really been bad, hasn't it?
What's that?
Luck? What's that? Said car owner Andy Granatelli. Well, it's something that the turbine cars have had very little of. Today, for example, here's specifically what happened. On Graham Hill's car, the top of the chassis that connects to the suspension broke and the car went out of control. On the other two cars, the trouble was identical. The fuel pump seized, no one knows why, but when that happens, it automatically fractures the pump's drive shaft to save the engine. Luck, what's that for the turbines? Last year, Parnelli Jones broke down with a few laps to go. Jim Clark was to drive one of the turbines this year, but was killed in a race in Europe. The man who took his place, Mike Spence, was killed in practice here. Luck, what's that? There are happy stories in Indianapolis today. What about Dan Gurney, who finished second? One of his chassis also finished first in the car driven by Bobby Unser. This one, number 3, winner of the 1968 Indianapolis 500. The executive producer of ABC's Wide World of Sports is Ron Arledge. The Indianapolis 500 produced by Chet Forte and directed by Robert Rieger and Lou Volpicelli. The associate director, Bernie Hoffman. Coordinating producer, Jim Spence. Indianapolis film editors, John Peterson, Larry Proctor, and Ted Winterburn. Remember, tomorrow afternoon, the U.S. Open Golf Championship from Rochester, New York. Next week, the National AAU Men's Outdoor Track and Field Championships from Sacramento, California. And now this is Jim McKay, along with Roger Ward and Chris Economaki, saying so long from Indianapolis. Air travel arrangements for ABC's Wide World of Sports made through United Airlines, who also furnished promotional consideration. Today's program was pre-recorded.